Okay, I'm going to give you some instructions on 9-8 and 9-9. First thing I want to remind you of is place value. So right here we have the decimal. Anything that goes to the left is a whole number. Anything that goes to the right of the decimal is a part of a number. So if we're looking at the decimal, we go left, we have our ones, tens, hundreds, and so on. If we're going to the right of the decimal, we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So what that looks like is when we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, that should remind us of our fractions. Because if we have a decimal that looks like this, then that means we have 1/10, okay, because it's in the tenths place. Okay, the other thing that might be helpful to you is remembering our conversions. So 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. 1 meter is also the same as 1,000 millimeters. This is on 9.8 of your work pages. So I'm going to move this out of the way real quick. So you should have this workbook page at home. And right here, it's asking you how many meters is equivalent to 150 centimeters, 1,500 millimeters. So to figure that out, we have to remember, well, for every 1 meter, it's 100 centimeters. For every 1 meter, it's 1,000. Okay? So what we're doing is to go from meters to centimeters, we're multiplying by 100. Okay? If we go from meters to millimeters, we're multiplying by 1,000. Well, multiplication and division go hand in hand. So if I already know these, and I need to know this number, then I'm going to go the opposite direction. So to go from centimeters to meters, instead of multiplying, I'm going to divide. So I'm going to be dividing by 100. To get from centimeters to meters. So when I when I divide, I am going to use this, and I'm going to pretend it had a decimal because it's a whole number, so the decimal would go at the very end of it. And then when I am dividing, see how I'm dividing, I'm going to get smaller. So I am going to go and jump places however many times there are zeros. So I know that their meters are 100 times less than centimeters. So 100 times less means that I need to go backwards 100 times less. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to look at the 100. It has 2 zeros. So I'm going to make 2 jumps. 1, 2. So that's where my decimal is going to be. So it's going to be 1.5 meters. 1.5 meters is equivalent to 150 centimeters, is equivalent to 1,500 millimeters. So, looking at these, if you have a ruler, go ahead and measure it. If you don't have a ruler, then you can skip that for right now. Let's go ahead and look at these ones over here. Okay, so this top one that kind of started for you. So remember, we're going meters. This is a meter also, because these are all saying they are equivalent. Okay? Equivalent means the same. 3.2 is the same as 3 2/10 because this 2 is in the tenths place. Because wherever we're going to the right, it's decimal tenths. Okay, so decimal tenths place. So we have a whole number of 3, and then we have 2 tenths. So decimals and fractions, this is how you write the same number in a decimal and a fraction. But now we want to go to centimeters. So just like we talked about, we have, if we're going from meters to centimeters, we're going to multiply by 100. Because 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. So I know my meters, it's 3.2, and I'm using my book here because it's easier for me not to go back and forth with this camera. But you can do this on scratch paper, and you're going to multiply by 100. If you multiply by 100, we're going to go this direction because we're going bigger. Okay, we're going to move to the right. When we divided on the other page, we went to the left because we were getting smaller. Once again, you're going to move over however many place values you have zeros. So we're going to go over twice. So I'm going to go 1, and I don't have another place to jump, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 0. Okay, so it's going to be 320, because I had my decimal here. I jumped once, and I needed to jump again, so I'm going to add a 0 there because I needed to have another place value because I went 100 times bigger. Okay. Same thing, we have millimeters, so I know that meters to millimeters, we're going to multiply by 1,000. So I have 3.2 times 1,000. There are 3 zeros, so we're going to jump 3 places. 1, 2, 3. So I don't have numbers here, so I'm just going to add zeros. So it's going to be 3,200. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at D. It says 67 1,000ths. There's no whole number, so that tells me right away that I need to put a 0 in my decimal. There's no whole number. 67 thousandths. So if it's going to be 67 thousandths, remember back over here on our place value, we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So if it's going to be 67 thousandths, I can't put my 67 here because if I put it here, it would be 67 hundredths. I need to be 67 thousandths. So that means the last digit has to end in thousandths place. So that tells me that I'm going to have a 0 and then a 67 because we have 67 thousandths because we have tens, hundreds, thousandths. Okay. Same thing if I'm going from meters to centimeters. We're multiplying by 100. That means we're going to take the decimal and we're going to jump 2 places. So if I jump 2 places, 1, 2, now it's going to be 6.7. And if I go from meters to millimeters, I'm going to multiply by 1,000. That means 3 zeros instead of 2 zeros. That means 1 more jump. So when I ended here last time, I would do 1 more jump. It would be 67.